Is a president tossing out the first ball of the season and a pudgy schoolboy playing catch with his dad on a Mississippi farm. A tall, thin old man waving a scorecard from the corner of his dugout. That's baseball. And so is a big fat guy with a bulbous nose running home one of his 714 home runs. There's a man in Mobile who remembers that Honus Wagner hit a triple in Pittsburgh 46 years ago. That's baseball. And so is a scout reporting that a 16-year-old Sandlot pitcher in Cheyenne is a coming Walter Johnson. Baseball is a spirited race of man against man, reflex against reflex, of game of inches. Every skill is measured, every heroic, every failing, seen and cheered, or booed, and then becomes a statistic. In baseball, democracy shines its clearest. The only race that matters is a race of the bag. The creed is a rule book, and color, merely something to distinguish one team's uniform from another. Baseball is a rookie, his experience no bigger than the lump in his throat as he begins fulfillment of his dream. It's a veteran, too. A tired old man of 35, hoping those aching muscles can pull him through another sweltering August and September. Nicknames of baseball, names like Zeke and Pie and Kai and Home Run and Cracker and Dizzy and Dazzy. Baseball is the clear, cool eyes of Rogers Hornsby, the flashing spikes of a Ty Cobb, and an overaged pixie named Rabbit Moranville. Baseball, just a game, as simple as a ball and bat, and yet as complex as the American spirit it symbolizes. It's a sport, a business, sometimes almost even religion. Why, the fairy tale of Willie Mays making a brilliant World Series catch and then dashing off to play stickball in the streets with his teenage pals. That's baseball. And so is the husky voice of a doomed Lou Gehrig saying, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of this earth. Baseball is cigar smoke, hot roasted peanuts, ladies' day down in front, take me out for the ball game, the seventh-inning stretch, and the Star-Spangled Banner. Baseball is a man named Campanella telling the nation's business leaders, you have to be a man to be a big leaguer, but you have to have a lot of little boy in you, too. This is a game for America, this baseball, a game for boys and for men.
Wow, I get chills every time I listen to that. Spoiled to be growing up listening to Ernie Harwell and Paul Carey back in the 70s and 80s. That's baseball to me. America's pastime. Couldn't wait for opening day. And again, it's upon us tomorrow, April 1st, and that's no joke. The 2021 baseball season is upon us. And again, welcome to the Captain Lou Extravaganza, the baseball extravaganza, the 2021 12-Ounce Sports Baseball Preview Show live here on 12-Ounce Sports, the platform of networks, Zingo TV Channel 761 as well. We got a great show planned for you tonight, chock full of guests. We've got our own 12-Ounce Sports, Mitch Bernstein, scheduled to join us here in a couple of moments. What we're going to do is we're going to have him come on at 8:05, and we're going to talk a little National League East and American League East. We'll see if the Atlanta Braves, in his eyes, can win another division, get to that next level, compete with the Dodgers. Can they get there? The American League East, we know it's the Yankees to win. They're one of the best teams money can buy. They always seem to be, but they haven't made it to the big dance in 11 years. We'll see if Mitch thinks that they can finally break the ice and get back to the Fall Classic, something that they're famous for. Boz Echevarri is going to join us, an old friend of the show, at 8:30 Eastern Time. He's going to talk American League and National League West. The Dodgers, the other team, the best team money can buy, finally broke through, won the World Series. And then they just, again, the rich get richer. They get Trevor Bauer. They've got a pitching staff. They've got some hitters. They got the best team money can buy, but is that going to be good enough? They got an awful lofty standard to set. So we'll talk to Boz Echevarri coming up at 8:30. And, of course, at 9 o'clock, Paul Shivari will join us and talk American League and National League Central. But right now, let's go to the Captain Lou Extravaganza guest line, and let's welcome in the Burn with Mitch's own 12 Ounce Sports is Mitch Bernstein. Mitch, thanks for taking time out tonight. Happy opening day eve. How are you?
I know. How you doing, Captain Lou? Doing all right. I am excited for tomorrow.
Boy, I am too. You know, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I played that Ernie Harwell bit that I always do every year, opening day, and I tell you, it just brings goosebumps. It harkens me back to the early 70s, mid 70s. The Tigers weren't very good, Mitch, but on a warm summer's night on the shores of Lake Superior at 10 o'clock, getting to stay out as late as I want, as long as my folks knew I was in the backyard listening to Tiger baseball, man, there was nothing better, you know?
Yeah. You had a great announcer, and I had listening to the Mets trio of Bob Murphy, Lindsey Nelson, and Ralph Kiner. Their voices are etched as Ernie's is, I'm sure, in your brain forever. I mean, those three were great. And it was just, you harken back, and it's fun. And obviously this year, because we're going to the games right now. I know Manfred said that the hope is that the looking at mostly full ballparks by midsummer. So that's great news.
It certainly is, man. And just the smell of the hot dogs, the stale beer, whatever. You don't get the cigar smoke anymore, but we've got a lot to look forward to. And speaking of your Mets, Mitch, let's get started with the National League East. That's going to be a very competitive division, and top to bottom. Even the Marlins, they surprised everybody in that shortened season. I like their acquisitions, Mitch. I think they're going to be right there with the Braves. Do you think they've got enough to possibly take over Atlanta? I'd see their over/under is 90.5.
Yeah, are you talking about the Braves or
the Mets?
The Mets. Okay, I was thinking. I thought you said Marlins. I'm like, wait a minute. What are you talking about?
No, they're 71.5. No.
It's, I think, the top four, including my Phillies, which could surprise people, and that's my hope. Talked to a guy on my show last night, Rick Soisson. He's got a website called Call to the Bullpen, and he does a Twitter newsletter. It goes out every other day, every other week, and we said to each other, both of us said, the Phillies could surprise some people. Now, the Mets, and I think here in total, Lou, this division is going to come down to injuries, because the team that stays the healthiest is going to end up winning. Mm-hmm. They all have. I mean, yes, the Mets have a new owner, Lindor, who's there, who may only be a 1 year, one and done. It may seem no contract. I mean, they got McCann, they got Alonso, I'm looking at their lineup. You're looking at Nimmo and Lindor and Conforto and Alonso and Smith. Listen, and Jeff McNeil, James McCann. If they all hit like they can, just like any of the lineups, and it's interesting because every single lineup in this East division is just full of talent. Yeah. They can hit. I'm not sure that beyond DeGrom and Stroman, that their pitching staff, I mean, Syndergaard's going to come back. Carrasco's hurt right now. Who knows? I don't know how long he's going to be out, maybe another 4 weeks or something. But, that right now, as you look at opening day, is a better than average rotation. And their lineup is amazing. You go to the Braves, Lou. I mean, Freddie Freeman. I mean, here's again. Look at this. The lineup is crazy.
Yeah,
they got the new center fielder, Christian Pash. He's projected a couple of years ago to be here, and he's here. Acuna, Albies, Freeman. Freeman is a Phillies killer. Ozuna, who can hit like crazy. They brought him back. Right, came back. Mm-hmm. I just don't know that. Listen. Drew Smiley, okay, maybe. I'm not bought in on him or Charlie Morton. I don't know that they're that as great as they see as people are making them out to be. Max Fried, yes, number one for sure. I just don't know about the other starters, and that's why I think it's going to be. And Soroka's injured; he's going to come back. You know, he got hurt last year. Um, so that and then let's go to the Phillies, my team. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then we'll hit Washington. Um, Fifth most runs scored in the league last year, the Phillies.
Yeah.
Listening to Scott Fransky this evening on a radio program, he and the host were talking about who is the sleeper. Who do we think is the guy that we really don't know who, if he can swing things. This is the guy that could. It's Andrew McCutchen. You know, he's that veteran presence. He's that leader. He's that guy with this little swag if he gets going, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Mitch, I crack up when you say that because I can remember when McCutchen was a rookie, and it just seems like
yeah,
yesterday. And now he's the
yes,
veteran presence on that lineup. It's incredible.
it is. It is. And he hasn't, I don't think he's reached his potential with the Phillies yet.
No,
My biggest worry with the Phillies, number one, defense. Number two, and these guys on the radio are talking about it, and he says, "Well, I think Scott Fransky thought he was okay." Hoskins, if he can get back to 2018 form, this team will be number one or two in runs scored in the National League. Their over under is 80
yeah,
and a half. I'm if I'm a betting man, I'm way over. I'm way over.
really.
Yes.
Oh, I might have to take a flyer on that.
There's no way they only win 80 games with this lineup. I mean, and Zach Eflin, it's going to depend upon him as the number three when he did what he did last year, and it kind of surprised people. If they're projecting what he actually can do, listen, you got a pretty good 1, 2, 3. You got a left-hander, Matt Moore, who's coming off of coming from Japan. And Chase Anderson, we don't really know much about, but listen, they're veterans too, and that's what you need. Then, unfortunately, but better than last year, the bullpen. And these guys made some moves. Archie Bradley, I still don't trust. George Girardi said today, Hector Neris is the closer. I don't like that. Hector is so inconsistent the past several years that he's either going to blow the save right at the beginning, he's going to walk the first guy, and then they're done with a 1-run lead, or he's going to throw that splitter and fastball combination, and he'll mow him down 1, 2, 3. Just too inconsistent. And then so it's a to me, yeah. Do the Braves have the slight edge? I do believe so. Let's talk about Washington. Listen, it's only a 4-game difference between the Nationals and the Mets and the Phillies, right?
Yeah.
Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin. Can't get much better than that. Are they going to stay healthy? John Lester, not so bought in on him. He's 37. They got Schwarber to play right field and Josh Bell to play first. So, it's going to be. Here's the thing: don't we all love about predictions, right? We love our teams, and the ones that we know well, like your teams in the Central. There, I love looking at this National League East. And from the beginning of spring training, people are saying this is the most competitive division in all of baseball.
Boy.
And listen, tomorrow, Braves, and then next week I'm going Monday night with the Mets.
Oh wow!
So their first 13 games are against those two teams.
Wow!
So I'll be happy with a 6-7 record to start off with those.
Wow!
I really will.
We're talking with Mitch Bernstein. You can catch his show, and I have to tell you, if you like baseball at all, and I know you do if you're watching and listening tonight, check out his show every Tuesday night from 6 to 8 here on 12 Ounce Sports, The Burn with Mitch. He's got great guests every week, storytellers, historical guests. I mean, it's great. I always listen to it, watch it before I do my show, pick up little tidbits. It's really fun to listen to. You know, Mitch, it's funny you brought up a point about Atlanta before we go into the National or the American League East. Everybody's so high on Drew Smiley being the
Yeah.
the difference maker, and I don't see it. I remember when he was with the Tigers, he was good, but
Mhm.
I mean, a difference maker to maybe get them to the next level on up near the Dodgers, I don't see it.
No. And he's old. I
Yeah,
mean, he and Morton are old. Are they successful? Yeah, better than average, but
Mhm.
that's about where they go, in
Yeah.
my opinion. So I think again, based on these starting lineups, I'm like, so again, Soroka isn't starting yet. He's their best pitcher beside him and Fried.
Mhm.
So when he gets on the mound, when he comes back, we'll see what ends up happening. I would love to each these top four guys teams to beat the heck out of each other for most of the season. The only thing that I worry about is the Miami Marlins and when they play the Phillies because they won 7 out of 10 last year against the team. We
Wow.
were dying. It's like, how can we lose to this team? But listen, they made the playoffs. You
Isn't
go
that
figure.
something?
They weren't that bad. They showed up. Now, I talked to Andre Fernandez, a beat reporter for the Marlins, on my show 4 weeks ago, and yes, he said they're okay. He does not see them competing at all for the division.
I don't either.
He says they're Sanchez is obviously their number one, but they got to score runs, and he doesn't see them doing much of that at all. I mean, if you look at the lineup, they got a rookie, Jazz Chisholm, who is pretty darn good. He's playing second base. Alfaro, he's a 250 catcher. I don't know how good a defensive catcher he was. He was with the Phillies before he went in that trade for JT. Miguel Rojas, I don't know much about. Adam Duvall, old. Jesus Aguilar, Corey Dickerson, old left fielder. He's not going to hit 300. Starling Marte is their piece in their lineup. And besides Sisto, he mentioned Eliezer Hernandez as a potential guy to watch in the rotation, and Sandy Alcantara too. But they're really young, and they know they're getting into some 162 this year.
Yeah.
What happens? If you wanted me to predict, here's what I'm going to say because I can't predict. You don't know.
Right.
I made a bet with Tim Britton, who is the Mets beat writer, and I said to him, Tim, let's make a bet. I'm going to bet you that the Phillies finish higher than the Mets. I didn't say where. I just said finish higher.
That's awesome.
So if my Phillies do, he buys me some New York pizza,
Ooh.
and if the Mets finish higher, I'm buying him a Philly cheesesteak.
Wow, that's a good bet either way there. Mitch,
Yeah,
let's transition over to the American League. I mean, we all know what the Yankees are. They're one of the best two teams that money can buy, but obviously it hasn't translated into a World Series for them and since 2009. I like to look at the over-unders and whatnot, and the one that stands out to me, it's interesting. Your Phillies and the Boston Red Sox both have the same over-under 80.5. And I'm sorry, I know we got guys, Greg and Aaron, on our network that are huge Red Sox fans.
Mm-hmm.
Those two teams they're not equal. Boston
No.
to me is not an 80-win team. And I look at Tampa Bay and Toronto. I think they're up and coming. Tampa Bay seems to do it on smoke and mirrors. I like what Toronto did in the offseason getting Springer, and I watched Bo Bichette and Vladdy Jr. when they're at single A ball here in Michigan in Lansing.
Oh.
And I love them. But I like what Toronto's doing. But, I mean, give me one reason to think the Yankees aren't going to win 95 games and make it to the Fall Classic.
Pitching.
Okay.
They're starting pitchers. Kluber, will he become what he had been?
Yeah.
Domingo German. I don't know that he's going to be as good as he needs to be as a as a number, I think number 3.
Yeah.
Jordan Montgomery, James Taylor. I mean, listen, I think again they're above average. I don't think there's many superstars besides Cole right there. And you're looking at their bullpen. They got Chapman as the closer, obviously. Um, Jonathan Lasoiga. I don't know. Michael King, Nick Nelson, and Lucas. I don't even know how to pronounce his damn name. I never heard the guy. Chad Green, Darren O'Day, and Luis Sessa in the bullpen. I don't get to watch a lot of American League, but I'm reading these names. I'm going, okay, maybe, but okay. So it's the bullpen. They don't get in much. Chapman. Listen, Chapman's had his problems, especially in the postseason.
Yeah.
He's got to throw strikes, and he wasn't doing that under pressure. I mean, yes, he throws 100, but these guys, you've seen guys tee off 100 fastballs.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting if that starting pitching doesn't hold up. They have. Listen, Luke Voigt is injured. He's not starting at first base. Jay Bruce is.
Yeah.
So that's a offensive piece. You got DJ LeMahieu, you got Ursula Glaber Torres, who didn't. I don't know that he had a great year last year. Is Arch Stanton and Mr. Aaron Judge going to stay healthy? Who the hell knows?
Isn't that crazy? I mean, Stanton is like the biggest albatross I think that you've seen in the last, I don't know, decade. The guy signed that $300 million deal, Mitch, and no way has he lived up to that at all.
No, and it's too bad because you and I, baseball fans, it was like a Ryan Howard when he came up the bat. You want to watch Judge mash the ball.
Oh boy,
him and Stanton. I mean, these guys are monsters. It's fun to watch them play, but let's stay healthy, fellas. I mean, let's try and figure something out so you can stay in your lineup. Yes, let's. You talk about the Blue Jays lineup. Oh my gosh. They picked up Marcus Semien to play second.
Yeah.
Kevin Biggio is just, you never know when these kids of major leaguers are going to play and how they're going to play. This kid's a player, obviously. He knows how to play. He knows how to hit. Bo Bichette. The outfield, Grishik he's got a lot of experience. Lourdes Gurriel and Teoscar Hernandez in the outfield. Vlad at first, Danny Jansen catching, and Tellez as a DH. Again, starting pitching besides Ryu, you got Matt, and I don't know that he's going to do anything. I mean,
I don't know either, Mitch. I'm right there with you on that.
Yeah, Robbie Ray coming back. Tanner Roark from the Nationals, and then Ross Stripling. What I've read is, these guys really are going to have to step up to win, to help with their pitching. But again, that's the lineup that's going to have to score runs, and then their bullpen's going to have to come through to hold it because I don't see the starting pitching holding up. With the Rays, we watched them last year in the playoffs, man. How fun was that team to watch?
Yes.
Rosarina, oh my God, that kid, I hope he has a good year because isn't it fun for us baseball fans to watch a young kid like him in a playoff situation, and he performed. It was cool. So now you have another name to watch.
Yes.
Right? That's what's cool. So you go to the power rankings, Lou, in the American League East. Yankees are third. Power rankings overall, right?
Yeah.
So Yankees 3, all right, with questions of Kluber and Talon as pitching. Rays are 8th. Potential. They're saying the experts said wild card.
Yeah.
Blue Jays are 9th. So that's what I'm thinking. It's obviously those top 3. The Red Sox are 20th, and the Orioles are 29th. I talked to a guy who is at work who's a diehard Orioles fan. They're so fed up in Baltimore.
Oh my gosh.
But, I mean, the guy doesn't spend any money, and I guess the best story for this beginning of the year is just Trey Mancini coming back. Did you hear? I heard a blurb. He was on an interview, NBC Today Show. He had no symptoms. He had no pain. They did his physical. his blood count came up wrong, and they found out that he had tumor in his colon. Went through that. He took it out. Went through 6 weeks of chemo, and God bless the kid. He's playing. So God bless him. I mean, just amazing. I love those stories.
I do too.
Because he's such a nice kid, and he's 27, and now he says he's grateful he has a platform for colon cancer awareness. So let's hope he. Those are the kind of guys you root for. I don't care what team they're on.
Mitch, I hate to cut you short. I got about 90 seconds left for you, maybe 2 minutes.
Okay.
The rule, and I know this affects you right now. National League, were you surprised they did not pick up the DH?
Yes, because that was the talk.
Yeah,
that was the talk. I think it surprised everybody. So one more year with the pitchers, which is fine. I mean, you're used to that. But I was ready for the DH to come. So yeah. I was against it initially, but it's coming, and that's fine. Surprised it didn't happen this year.
What about the labor on peace? I've talked to a few people I know in the baseball industry, and I read a lot about it. They say enjoy this year while you can. We could be in for a bad off season. What are your vibes? Yeah,
I've heard the same thing. I have to do more reading about it in terms of what they're going to be talking about, and it's been coming. I know it's been coming for years. It always is, and it's unfortunate. And God, I hope they get together and don't mess this up, because as always, baseball's losing fans. They got to get more. To get them back. More player interaction, bring back old players, get the kids to play with them, hang out, do more community stuff, even at the ballpark, do something. Because once a kid interacts with a professional, they're sold, or a former professional. They're in. They got to do something like that.
Mitch, this has been an absolute treat. I appreciate you taking time out. Get that hot dog out on the grill tomorrow before the first pitch. Get your favorite cold refreshment, if you will, and enjoy some baseball, man. It's back. Yeah. I'm really excited.
Looking forward to it, Lou. Looking forward to it. Great show, as always. And for you, and we will talk soon. I have to call you about some things, but we'll let that go at a later time.
Sounds good.
Thank you for having me on, my buddy. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. Mitch Bernstein, the Burn with Mitch, here live on our Captain Lou Baseball Extravaganza. This is the opening day preview. Tomorrow is opening day. Can you believe that already? April 1st. It's not a April Fool's joke. 36 degrees for first pitch in Detroit tomorrow. That's going to be cold, but it's baseball. I remember my only opening day I ever went to was in 1995. It was right after the strike. And down in Detroit at the corner of, down in Detroit at the old Tiger Stadium, corner of Michigan and Trumbull. And it was about 38 degrees. It was cold, but we didn't care. It was baseball. That's what it's all about. Hey, when we come back, Boz Echevarri, our West Coast baseball expert, we're going to talk American League and National League West with him and see what he thinks of the National League West. Does San Diego have a chance? Do the Padres have a prayer? Did you get that? We'll be right back here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, here on the 12-Ounce Sports Platform and Networks and Zingo TV, Channel 761. Welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza, the baseball extravaganza tonight, as we have our 2021 MLB preview show. Opening day tomorrow for Major League Baseball across the United States and Canada. We're with Toronto. Don't forget about the Blue Jays. We are live, as we mentioned, till about 9:30 tonight. Still to come, Boz Echevarri, our West Coast insider. And then at 9 o'clock, our MLB insider, Paul Shivari. We'll talk American League and National League Central with him as well. And, we talk about baseball. it's near, it is not the number one sport in America right now. It used to be when I was growing up, it was baseball and football neck and neck. And now basketball has probably overtaken it. NFL is king, we know that. But baseball's got the history. And, fun growing up listening to stories of people that met Satchel Paige and, watched, I can remember my grandpa telling me stories about watching Babe Ruth or not Babe Ruth, but seeing him, watching the likes of Joe DiMaggio and the Yankee teams of the 50s that were so dominant. Thinking the Dodgers were in Brooklyn, the Giants were in New York, Chicago with their two teams, the St. Louis Browns that are now the Baltimore Orioles, the Washington Senators, who are now the Minnesota Twins, and the Texas Rangers. Stories of that. My first baseball game, 1974, August 1st, with watching Woody Fryman pitch a one-hitter against the Milwaukee Brewers. Things like that, that's baseball, definitely. Speaking of that, we are excited to bring back one of our friends of the show here, our West Coast guy, Boz Echevarri. And we're going to talk a little bit of American League and National League West. Boz, welcome back to the show. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Thoroughly blessed. How are you?
Oh, I am great. It's opening day eve. And, there's nothing better if you're a baseball fan than the thought of 162 games, hopefully, of a Major League Baseball season.
It's it's pretty much a Christmas Eve if you're a baseball fan. That's it's Christmas Eve and the first day of school and all of that kind of jumbled into one.
You're a big Giants fan. I know it's might be a little bit tough, but it's going to be tough for everybody in the National League West. Let's get the elephant out of the room, or let's talk about whatever. 104.5 is the over-under in some books. Mine that I'm using is 103. My goodness, the rich get richer. Are the Dodgers, are they really going to get 105 wins this year?
That's, it's interesting because it's tough. I mean, you play 19 against the Padres, you're going to play 19 against the Giants. You could probably steamroll Colorado and Arizona, but I mean, the thing you have to remember is that division games, for whatever reason, you look at divisional matchups in football, but division games are always tough because you see them all the time, and the scouting report's always there. So that's always a tough one. But if there's any team that could do it, I think the Dodgers can, especially with the pitching staff that they have. It's just that it's a lot of pressure, but it's well deserved for them.
It's funny is I look at that pitching set. I look at that lineup, that starting rotation, Boz. You've got Walker Buehler, who I really like. You got Trevor Bauer, who, if you can take his antics, he's a potential Cy Young winner. David Price as possibly a fifth starter. Clayton Kershaw, some people think he's a number 4. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it reminds me of Detroit's starting pitching staff at 2013. They couldn't win with that, a World Series. But, my God, the deck is stacked for them right now.
Yeah, it's weird that we're even thinking of Clayton Kershaw being a number 4.
I know it.
Like, who would ever thought of that, just even last year?
Yeah. And you look at their, again, they got Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger. I mean, it's, you name it. They're going to be fun to watch. Everybody's going to be tuned into them. They've won, 8 straight divisions. If they've got an Achilles heel, what is it?
Well, that's tough. And I feel like it has to be the bullpen.
Yeah.
And just looking at that staff, looking at the lineup, top to bottom, I mean, that was always the thing that, I catch a lot of Dodger games, but if you can get to the Dodgers bullpen and you get to them within, the 5th inning, which kind of, that's what baseball is right now. Yeah. But the fact that they have great starting pitchers that can, it's weird saying remarkably get into the 7th inning with ease. But with pitchers that can do that, if you can get to the Dodger bullpen, you're going to have a lot of success against that team throughout the year.
It's funny is talking about that division, you've got a San Diego team that I think is, they're the sexy pick to get a wild card bid, which I think they're going to get. They've got, how would you like to be Fernando Tatis right now, boss? What is he, 23? And he's, he signed that deal to make what? 300, well, he's a 100 millionaire already, or he's going to be, and 23 years old. I mean, life's pretty good for Mr. Tatis, don't you think?
Yeah, if you're on the left side of that Padre infield, I think life's pretty good at you, pretty good right now. And the fact that, they have a left side of the infield that's worth more than the NHL TV deal that they signed with ESPN. So, I mean, like who would ever thought of that? But yeah, if I'm Tatis, I'm happy. You got a championship caliber team. You're playing in a great city in San Diego that theoretically you could live year round.
Yeah.
It would be pretty much the same. And then a fan base that's really, I mean, that's the only team there. That's the only thing to do in San Diego during the night. So, Padre fans are starting to come back to the yard, and that'll be a fun place to watch baseball games for sure.
And it's I can't wait to watch. It's funny is in that division, Boz. This obviously being a San Francisco Giant guy, you've got the hated rivals, the Dodgers and the Giants. It's always going to be a good game. I don't care what the records are. Then you've got the San Diego and LA team that, they're going to be so competitive. The top three in that division, I mean, those are going to be fun games to watch all year.
I think what makes it even more interesting too is that when you think of at least two of those teams with the Padres and the Dodgers, mm-hmm. and you immediately think, offense with Tatis, Machado. Oh gosh, the Padres have so much young talent too. And then, I mean, we know the story with the Dodgers, but they play their home games in what are really pitcher friendly parks, like
yes,
Dodger Stadium at night, super hard to hit a home run out of. Petco, we know of, just right on the water, super damp air, super deep outfield. Same thing with AT&T, or I guess Oracle Park. I still can't. I'm still wrapping my head around that one. But yeah, Oracle Park, we know 421 or I guess 415 to right center, and
wow,
396 to left center. It's and the wind's always normally blowing in, so at all three of those parks. So yeah. The fact that there's this much offensive output, that's what two of those three teams are known for is offense, and to do it in yards that are massive that we have out west, it's pretty impressive, and it makes for fun baseball to watch.
Oh, 100%. We're joined by Boz Echevarri here on the 2021 12-Ounce Sports MLB preview show here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Boz and all of our guests, by the way, are joined on the guest line, sponsored by Ken Ryan at Voya Financial Advisors. Give him a call today, 517-420-5669. That's Ken Ryan at Voya Financial Advisors, our guest line sponsor here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Boz, this is year two for San Francisco without Madison Bumgarner. I know it's kind of a transformation for the Giants, and a lot of folks say that this will not be their year. They're over under 75.5, but they've got some up and comers on that team. Take us through San Francisco. Who can we look for on the Giants to possibly help them, be competitive to get to that next level?
Yeah, the big name is if you're a baseball fan, you'll probably recognize the last name, but Mike Yastrzemski.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
He's probably the heavy hitter there, just in terms of younger talent. I mean, I think it was Cody Bellinger who felt that Yastrzemski, if we have a COVID shortened season, would have been an all-star for the Giants, and a vote, maybe a player picked all-star. But I think if you look at this Giants team, it's of course veteran led. You have Evan Longoria at third. You have Crawford at shortstop. You still have Belt, who's coming back from an injury, as is Longoria at first, and then you still have Buster Posey anchoring the staff. And I think Posey behind the plate, getting to handle like pitchers like Cueto, Sclafano. You have younger pitchers like Beatty. Alex Wood hopefully will be coming back soon. We kind of nicked the Dodgers on that one. But there's a lot of good pitchers, like starting pitcher pitching for the Giants. Kevin Gossman is still in San Francisco. He signed another deal with them. So, the Giants were probably, they were a 500 team last year. They were in the playoff hunt going into the last weekend of the series, and was a closer twice, two closers away from being in the wild card series. But I know a lot of people are counting out the Giants just because we don't have that many playoff spots, and you still got to play 38 games against the Dodgers and the Padres. But I think the Giants, they can pull it out, and I think for a team that's supposed to be rebuilding, I think the Giants might surprise a lot of people.
We look at you mentioned it briefly at the top of our conversation, Boz. San Francisco and Colorado. I'm sorry, Arizona and Colorado. The future's not too bright for them right now, and I I'll never feel sorry for an athlete who signs a big contract with a team that's not very good. I mean, they're getting paid, and that's that's great. And the reason I say that is Madison Bumgarner. He didn't have his greatest year last year with Arizona, and I think he doesn't get a whole lot of support there. But it's going to be a rough year for the Diamondbacks, and Colorado. My goodness, they're calling them one of the three possibly worst teams in all of baseball, along with my Tigers and Baltimore. And it's going to be a long year for those two squads.
Yeah, with Arizona, that one's more. We look at Arizona, and it's weird because you look at front office, and front office kind of gives you a little bit of an inkling of how the year is going to be. And to me, it seems like Arizona's front office just doesn't have, they don't really have a direction. There's no one in their farm system that, if you're a Diamondback fan, that you can really get excited about. It's weird that, we're still talking about Madison Bumgarner being kind of like the marquee player there when he had a injury riddled 2020 season. Mm-hmm. He wasn't great his last year with San Francisco. So it's kind of weird, like thinking about Arizona, but then, you look up in the mountains, mile high up, and you're kind of scratching your head because they practically gave away Nolan Arenado for who knows what for beans. And, right. Well, not even beans, because they're not going to pan out to anything. Like, you look at that move, and
I don't know.
Everyone. Yeah, no one knows.
It's crazy. I don't get it, And what is it with Arizona? What's with the weather? What are they taking the Coyotes playbook is how to run a team? My goodness, I don't get it either there.
Yeah, it might have been too, because they're starting to complain about Chase Field.
Yeah.
So it very well could be that they're taking a playbook, a page out of the Desert Dogs playbook, because they're getting in fights with the city of Phoenix now about getting a new stadium when their stadium's only 25 years old. So I don't know what is going on with those two franchises, but they need a lot of help. And maybe for Colorado it might have something to do with the elevation, but I still don't understand that trade. And if I'm a player in Colorado, I kind of want out. There's rumblings that there's a lot of players that want out of Colorado after the Arenado, I guess not deal, but sale.
We'll call it a debacle and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's shift over to the junior circuit. And it's funny. I know Houston's the favorite. And I've listened to a couple of prognosticators and whatnot say, don't count out California. I look at the storylines that California has. I got 3 of them that I want to bring to you. First of all is, Albert Pujols is, I think, 38 home runs away from that very elite club of 700 dingers with Aaron and with Ruth and Bonds. And you've got Mike Trout, to me, is, I don't know. I still think he's the best player in baseball, pretty much. Him and maybe Mookie Betts. I don't know. And Shohei Ohtani. I've read some things, and I'm hearing some very, very lofty expectations, predictions, where they're saying 400 ABs and 140 innings pitched. Can you see that out of him in this day and age?
Not in this day of age where, I mean, especially with Madden running the team, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, if there's a manager that's going to pull someone out in the 7th inning of a must-win game because it's the third time around a lineup, it might be Joe Madden.
Oh God.
So
yeah,
I don't see Ohtani getting those kind of numbers in terms of off of the rubber. Maybe in that bat category, but just from a pitching standpoint, I have a hard time seeing that because of just the way that team is managed. But I mean, the AL West is kind of interesting because a lot of I know a lot of A's fans. They're the defending AL West champs.
Yeah.
And they basically gave Simeon away.
Yes.
They struggled with Chapman, but for the most part, they still have their core, and a lot of A's fans are still excited, and you should be. But the fact that I think they got away with a shortened season last year, it'll be interesting to see how they play out over 162, and especially since the A's, they have their interleague matchups are it's the NL West, so they're getting the Dodgers and they're getting the Padres too.
Wow, that's a great point, Boz. And Houston had a lot of injuries, and they obviously snuck in my with a losing record into the playoffs, and look what they did. They went on that run. They're still not a bad squad. You're going to look at the records in that division, Boz, and I could see 88 wins winning that, and it could be any one of those three teams, in my opinion. The Astros, the A's, or the Angels. But the more I look at the Angels, I like them. But Houston to me is still the team to beat, I think, in that division.
I think so. Too, and strictly because they've done it before.
Yes.
And that that has to account for something. And I like the Angels pick. I worry about the Angels because and it's the same reason why I worry about the Padres, is because for so many years, those franchises, I feel like they've been so good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Just when they get out in between the lines, something just happens, and we don't get what we expect out of those two franchises. I guess I am interested too, because with Houston coming back and coming back with fans, I feel that the baseball players were out to get Houston last year. We saw that with the Dodgers.
Yes.
I think we saw that with Oakland through some series as well. Fans don't forget, and you got to remember that fans have been cooped up in their house, for baseball fans at least, for over a year,
mm-hmm.
and they're going to start to come back. And I think by August they'll be back in full force.
Yeah.
In most parts of the country, they don't forget, and baseball is one of those mental sports, and I think for baseball it's more mental than it is really physical or anything, because we talk about slumps and just getting inside of someone's head and just wrecking performance. Baseball is one of those sports because you just have to go after it day in and day out, and if we have fans back at full force in August, I was looking at the schedule. Houston makes a very interesting 3-game series trip to Los Angeles, and they're not playing the Angels. And we all know how hard August baseball is.
Yeah.
But if you have 50,000 lubed up Dodger fans,
oh boy,
just giving it to like the likes of Alex Bregman and those players on the Astros, I mean, if you have a bad August, that could very well wreck your season. And with the situation that is going around Houston, it wouldn't surprise me if the dog days really came out and bit Houston, and took them out of a playoff race.
Joe Madden against Dusty Baker. You know, two iconic baseball manager names right now. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing if those two are in the stretch run, man. That's going to be awesome.
It'll create great storylines, that's for sure. If you're a baseball fan, it'll be a reason to keep watching in August while some fans might be gearing up for football season. This will keep you tuned in to the diamond. That's for sure.
So okay, prediction time. We've got LA, as I mentioned, 104 over under. You look for somebody to knock them off, and I'm with you. I think San Diego's they've got the potential, but they've got that dreaded P word. I see LA and San Diego in the playoffs. American League, I think there's only going to be one team out of the West making it, and that's the division winner. I don't know your thoughts, but I'm going to go with Houston. Until somebody knocks them off. I love the Angels to be second. They're going to make a run at it, but I don't know. I'm going to stick with Houston.
Yeah, and I think that's a safe bet, especially if you're trying to put money down on that right now. I think Houston would be the safe bet. I think it's going to be close up until the All-Star break, and then we're going to start seeing someone kind of put space between them. You could say that for any division. But I think Houston would be the safe bet just because they've done it before, and they know how to handle the pressure and the season of a 162. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how COVID plays into this too. I think the players will handle it a little bit better because they've already gone through a season like this. But the fact that they are going to be traveling cross country, the fact that fans are going to be coming back, it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out if every team will be able to get 162 in.
That's going to be the question mark, and I'm very interested to see too how they handle that. Should you have to go with a percentage-wise thing of some sort. One of the things that I'm asking everybody, I've been asking it. We've got the rule changes that took an effect. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that live here on the show. The National League. I thought for sure, like Mitch and our last guest, Mitch Bernstein, I thought for sure, Boz, they were going to go with the DH. I see it coming next year. What do you think of putting the runner on second base in the 10th inning?
Why don't you just put him on third? Like, why second?
Put him
on third.
Little softball action,
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, I don't. I've seen it in the minor leagues. It looks weird.
Yeah.
It's absolutely weird, but it does play into strategy too. Because like, what if you have a quick guy at the bottom of the lineup, and because he's the last out, you just tell him, hey, you're gonna be the last out. I'd rather have you on second. So just swing it 3 terrible pitches. Don't try to make contact. We'll just have you on second next inning, right? What's preventing a manager from doing that?
Yeah, that's right. The rule that I do like is the 3 batter minimum. And not only is it makes the manager think a little bit. I think it does speed up the game a little bit. And we both know, Boz, that these 4-hour games they're brutal. I mean, I love baseball, but 4-hour 9-inning games are anything to speed it up a little bit. I like the 3 batter minimum.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you take a look at the 3. I'll tell you what, I know managers love it because if you sports writers can't say, oh, this manager left so and so in for too long because they have to face at least 3 batters, right? So it takes it takes a little bit off managers' plate. And I remember, a couple of years ago, Bruce Bochy was making bullpen changes after every batter. And it got a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I think there's other places where we can speed up the role. I mean, I know in the minor leagues there's a rule where all 4 infielders have to have their feet on the dirt prior to the infield, and then they're going to switch it halfway up the season where you can only have you have to have 4 players on the dirt, 2 have to be on each side of the bag, which I think should happen. I'm pretty anti-shift.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
might surprise a lot of people.
I am.
Yeah, I'm a little anti. Like, I mean, when you talk about growing the sport, right? We think of Jeter. When you think of double play or plays up the middle, where it creates excitement because you have a middle infielder has to range and dive for a ball and then make an exceptional play. Where now with a shift, like those type of plays are taken away because it's a routine ground ball right where they're at.
But they can't teach the guy to hit to the opposite field.
So you're right. There's that too. But I also feel like, that's a lot easier said than done, especially at the pro level.
Well, I like your. You know what? I like your argument. I don't mean to cut you short, Boz, but we're up against it. You know what? You bring a valid argument to that because I got to tell you, I tell everybody if they ban the shift, that could tip me off the edge of not watching. I mean, it's seriously. I see the DH going to the National League only because it gives somebody a chance to prolong their career, and I don't know why. I don't know why the baseball players wouldn't go for it, and I think they will. The runner on second, I can live with, but the shift, wow, I don't know. We're gonna have to get you on again, and you're gonna have to campaign for me to really go for that. You're the first one of the first people. There's only a couple people I know now. You're one of them that wants the shift banned. So I applaud you.
Yeah, that's a whole different segment.
That means you're gonna have to come on. We'll get you on. I'll tell you what. We'll get you back on after Memorial Day, one of the first measuring sticks of the baseball season, and we'll give you 15 minutes to expound on why we should ban the shift in 2022. How's that?
Sounds like a plan.
Boz Echevarri, thanks for joining us here on our preview show. This has been a real treat. Stay well, my friend. Enjoy the weather. Keep hitting that. I got to tell you, I went for my first round of golf last week down in Florida and duck hooked one off a condo. So I need work, man.
Hey, it's spring training for all of us, right?
And that's a good point, and boy, it was for me. Thanks for coming on, my friend, and hit them long and straight, will you?
Yeah, you too. Hope you find a lot of birdies this summer.
All right, you too. Thank you. Boz Echevarri. Catch him on Twitter at Bosels28, and listen to his podcast, by the way, Views from the Bay. Great guests on there, some great banter back and forth. I know he's got my old partner from the ACHA days too, Ryan Jones on there, Jonesy on there with him, and they do a great show together. That's Boz Echevarri. Wow, I'm kind of shocked. I didn't think that he would go for the shift. I'm telling you, I'm old school. If they don't know how to hit to the opposite field, shame on them. We've got one that likes to hit to the opposite field. Miguel Cabrera. A lot of his home runs go that way. He is, I think, 138 hits away from 3,000, and I think 18 away from 500 home runs. That's going to be something that us Tiger fans, we're not going to have a whole lot to cheer about this year, except for that. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. He looks like he's in good shape. I want Miguel to stay healthy. We got to get him over the 500 home run plateau and the 3,000 hit plateau. That'll get him into Cooperstown. And, give us Tiger fans something to cheer about here in the summer. Hey, we're going to take a break. Still to come, we got a half hour left of the show. Paul Chivari's scheduled to stop by. We're going to talk American League and National League Central, a division near and dear to our heart, being American League Central guys. He used to be American League West, me, then American League East back in the two-division days. But we're going to go over those two divisions and talk more about baseball. Opening day. It's opening day eve here on the 12-ounce sports platform and networks and Zingo TV, channel 761. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza, the baseball extravaganza live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Network. Hey, don't forget, coming up next week, we will have the next 2 Wednesdays are very special right now because WrestleMania weekend. We'll talk more about that on our previews. That's next Wednesday and the following Wednesday, 8 until 9:30 here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Let's get back to our 2021 MLB preview show here on the 12-Ounce Sports platform and networks. And let's go back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza guest line, sponsored by Ken Ryan at Voya Financial Advisors. Call them today at 517-420-5669. That's Ken Ryan at Voya Financial Advisors. Paul Shivari is our MLB insider. He is our American League and National League Central extraordinaire advisor, and we welcome him back here to the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Paulie, hey man, it's opening day eve. It's time to be a little kid again. Let's go hit some baseballs.
Oh, I'm so excited, Lou. I can't believe that in 16 hours, games will count again and be meaningful in Major League Baseball.
What are you putting on your hot dog and brats tomorrow?
I always go mustard and grilled onions.
Oof, well, I'm going ketchup and pickles on mine, so we're
well. Being from Chicago, it's literally a sin. I think you have to do like 50 rosaries if you put ketchup on a hot dog,
especially on Holy Thursday, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, it's funny. I was thinking of you this morning, Paul, on my way to work. You know, I listened to it was like 4:15 in the morning or whatever, and they had a replay of Steve Stone on Talking Baseball, and he's high on your White Sox, man, and I am too. And the big difference, I think, is going to be the bullpen to get them over the hump. What do you think?
Oh, I think so. I don't think the nation is talking enough about the White Sox bullpen. I think they have a chance to really be easily in the top 5 this year. They do have a lot of depth, so I think even if you lose a couple of those arms, there's guys in the farm system that might be able to contribute. But you have a good situation on your hands when you have flamethrowers like Michael Kopech and Garrett Crochet, guys that really arguably should be starters, but due to where they're at in their careers, just need just a low innings total. I mean, it's going to be really neat to see how Tony La Russa employs the use of particularly those 2 players.
Do you think he can adapt to the style of baseball right now? I know it's a cliche, but the guy, what is he, 104? No, he's 76, you know, and I mean, yeah, I know Joe Madden can do it, and you've got, I was just talking about Dusty Baker with Houston. I mean, they're up there. They're around that mark. I mean, can he adapt to the new style okay than Chicago?
I think so. I think, because La Russa hasn't stepped away from the game. He just has stepped away from the dugout.
Okay.
So I think he's familiar with how the game is operated differently in the last 10 years. Let's keep in mind that in 1993, he kind of experimented with the use of an opener with the Oakland A's, but it failed miserably in the first week of the season. So this is a guy that's always kind of found out of the box ways to try and creatively use his pitching staffs. And I think, I don't think he's going to completely do what Tampa Bay was doing over the last few seasons, but I think at the same time, I think he's not so old school where he's going to force his pitcher to automatically see 100 pitches in 6 innings every night. I think he's going to find ways to really, especially, when I talk about Kopech, there's been talk of Kopech having about 2 or 3 inning outings every time he goes out there. So I think that's really going to affect the way that he uses the rest of the bullpen going forward in the season.
And I am excited for the Southside fans. I mean, you guys and gals have put up with a long rebuild, and it at times I'm sure you were questioning it, kind of like what we're doing here in Detroit. Houston was the same way, and the fruits of their labor paid off. I'm going to be excited for you as long as my Tigers aren't in it. I'm going to be rooting for the Sox because they're due, man. You guys have paid the price.
Yeah, it's been quite a playoff drought for this team with the exception of last season. And even then, despite the fact that it counts, I don't know if I can truly count ending a playoff drought in a season where more than half the league got to go to the playoffs anyway. This is going to be a big year for the White Sox, and I think they have a big target on their back, despite the fact that they really haven't done anything yet. And I think everyone just knows that they have a great core collection of talent, even without Eloy Jimenez, who's going to miss possibly the entire season.
Yeah.
It's a team that should be in the mix no matter what, whether they're first or second place. They're going to be one of the better teams in the American League Central.
It's going to be a dogfight between them and Minnesota. Minnesota brings back, you talk about potent. I know the Yankees got a potent lineup, and of course the Dodgers. I mean, they're the best teams money can buy. That's kind of been my theme tonight. But I like their potential as far as the bats go. But we just said it. I think the White Sox have the edge with the pitching. But Minnesota, I think, is going to have to win some games. 8-7 and 7-5. But they're going to be right there. I think both teams are looking, and rightfully so, at a playoff berth.
Yeah, it's amazing how similar of teams they are too. That they can put up runs with the best of them. Maybe not the most exciting pitching staffs, but still pretty decent, balanced pitching staffs. And bullpens that I think people just are really overlooking at this point. I think it's they're teams that are going to mirror each other very well. And just from the standpoint of a fan of the White Sox, Minnesota's been a thorn in my side for so many years.
Oh God! Don't even get me started
now.
Don't get me started on those birds. Though they've been playoff killers for us too. I'm not a Twins fan, not at all. I mean, it's personal. It's not
to
business
root for anybody in the American League Central. That's not my team, but I understand.
No, but you're right. They're very similar, and they're going to have some boomers on that team. I think they can hit with the best, but it's going to be interesting to watch them down the stretch with Chicago.
Yeah, and I think sometimes baseball skews into being a young man's game, and I think that's where the White Sox have the edge. I think they just have a lot of exciting young talent that's really going to give them the energy that they need to surpass Minnesota this year.
We got Cleveland. They're my enigma team. It seems like they have been the last few years. You can't count them out, but I just don't see it. I think they're on the decline. I think the window's closed as we see it. I like Tito Francona, but I just don't know, Paulie. Maybe a shot at a wild card, but they're going to have to overtake either Minnesota or Chicago. Then you're looking at Tampa Bay or Toronto, to get one of those wild cards. I just think it's too much to ask.
I agree with you completely, Lou. In fact, I have Cleveland projected to be fourth place this year in the American League Central. I think they've taken a big step downward, and I think in years past, they're always talked highly, but what did they do to improve? They have one of the lowest payrolls in the league. The trading away Mike Clevenger was kind of an odd move last season. Not that he would make a difference this year for them. Sure, they have Shane Bieber, but if Bieber goes down with an injury, then what do you have? It's really, you're right. Tito Francona, arguably one of the greatest managers in the game right now. He wants to do a bullpen by committee, or at least a closer by committee. That might work out for them. He'll find creative ways, but also he's got to stay healthy himself. Francona, Sandy Alomar Jr. did a fairly good job in his replacement last year. So as far as being steady in the dugout, they're fine there. But at the same time, this is a team that just has way too many question marks, and we don't even really know which direction they're headed as a franchise. Are they in a rebuild? Are they in a retooling? Do they really have enough to compete with the likes of the White Sox or Twins? And I can't find an answer to that question that says an absolute yes, that they are the class of the AL Central.
It's funny too, as I was listening to that interview this morning, on my way to work, and I was teetering on thinking Kansas City might be, surprise some people. I know they're not in the same league as Chicago and the Yankees and whatnot, but they're going to be a team to watch. I think they're a comer. Detroit is still a couple years away. I'm not going to kid anybody. I'd love to see them, surprise people. I just don't see it yet. But I want to see if Soler can get back to that 50 home run echelon that he's capable of with Kansas City.
Yeah, I think we're on the same wavelength, Lou, because I have Kansas City as that third place team. I don't think they're going to make a run at the playoffs here, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. I think, when you have, like you said, Jorge Soler and the power that he brings, he's still relatively young, so this could be a really great breakout campaign for him. But you have Whit Merrifield and then last year's American League Comeback Player of the Year and Salvador Perez, who's just such a rock for that ball club. And then they lock up Hunter Dozier for a long-term contract. They trade for Andrew Benintendi. They have Carlos Santana now. It's really a good core that they have in place. And keep in mind, too, that Brady Singer is probably going to be one of the most exciting young pitchers to watch.
Forgot about him. That's right.
And then the bullpen, they've always kind of had those flamethrowers in the bullpen. Even going back to their championship season from 6 years ago, it's kind of a similar look there, and especially when you have Greg Holland and Wade Davis still in there, albeit a lot older. It's not a team that's in the middle of a rebuild. I think it's a team that really thinks that they're ready to contend this season. Sure, they're a couple players away, a couple pieces away. They're not going to sacrifice the future to win now. But when you have a general manager like Dayton Moore, you can't discount a team like this, especially when they have enough horses right now to be considered a decent team.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to put any money down on Detroit to win a division, even though they're plus 6,000. They've got the worst odds to win a division, second worst, only to Pittsburgh. And, Detroit's, they're young. I mean, I think they've got a very good manager in AJ Hinch. I'm the one move I'm glad they made. And they sent Joe Jimenez down to the minors. That guy, I never trusted him in the bullpen. I don't know. It's like I said before the break. The thing Detroit has to look forward to maybe this year is milestone chasing for Miguel Cabrera if he could stay healthy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that'll be the most fun thing to watch this year. And then, I think for those maybe people like you and me that really nerd out to this sort of stuff, it's going to be fun watching some of the young guys really find their footing. I mean, I'm excited to see Casey Mize put it all together for a full season, cracking that fifth spot in the rotation. And I know Spencer Torkelson's a few years away, but to see him up in spring training was exciting, and then the shortstop with Castro.
Yes.
He's going to be exciting to watch this year. And then I like the fact that they brought in Robbie Grossman to kind of be a little bit of a team leader for these guys, a guy that he can be that veteran leader that they really need at a time like this. It's really going to be a turning point year for the Tigers, though, where I think they're like where the Royals are, a year ago, possibly, where, next season we might be talking about the Tigers as that sneaky good team that could get in there and be a third place or someone that can maybe sniff at the wild card.
Great comparison. That's a perfect comparison of the Tigers. I couldn't agree more. We're joined by Paul Shivari. Carcavices is his podcast. You got to check that out. Not only do they talk about baseball, but they love the Raiders when it comes to the pigskin. I love it. It's a great show to listen to.
Yeah, the only podcast that I think is White Sox and Raiders, but that's it's with my buddy John Hooper. We were childhood friends, and we lost touch a little bit over the years, but he reached out to me about 5 years ago and said he wanted to get into broadcasting and talk sports. And I said, well, how about we just do a podcast and start from there? And it's just been a blast working with John. And we did our season preview episode just the other day. I released that last night. And then in addition to that, I also do my own sort of inside baseball sort of look, and that's the Baseball Weekend Journal, which actually just about an hour or two ago, I dropped my season preview, and I'm slowly kind of revealing some of those picks as the night goes on. But I'd be more than happy to reveal whatever you'd like me to reveal tonight for you, Lou.
Well, we'll see what we can get to here in the remaining moments of our show. We got to get to the National League Central. And right off the top, Paul, I think we talked about this. I asked you this last year, but I guess, again, how does St. Louis always do it? They're always there. I mean, they're the most I'm going to say it. To me, they're one of the most well-run franchises in Major League Baseball. They're always relevant. They're always there. They don't win 100 games every year, but they're 85 to 95, and they're projected to win the division again. I love can't say enough about them. And how do they always do it?
Well, I think it speaks volumes to the operations approach of John Mozeliak. And of course, despite the fact that they are in a small market, they really do act like a big market team.
Yeah.
And it helps that they have a fan base that truly represents the Midwest. It's an important franchise, I think, in the grand scheme of things in baseball, to have a large team in a market like that that's consistent. And I think they always have a deep farm system. They scout well. They find ways to really position guys in the right places. And of course, I think the fact that they didn't fall in love with Colton Wong enough to give him a long-term contract, that's just one example of a person that, they could have easily rewarded him over past success, but was there enough talent there in the future to necessitate him getting the contract that he wanted? They didn't think so. And I think it's shrewd business decisions like this that have kind of kept them competitive year after year.
And you and I talked last year. It seems like yesterday, but it was last year in July when we did kind of a preview for the shortened season. And the Reds were my sleeper, my darling, whatever you want to call it. They're projected to be 81.5 wins. I think third place, it's them and Milwaukee neck and neck. Can Cincinnati come through this year and be a true contender in that division?
I don't think so, but I don't want to rule them out completely. I thought it was interesting that, they're addressing the concerns that they had at shortstop by bumping Eugenio Suarez over from third to short, moving Mike Moustakas from second to third, and giving Jonathan India, one of their top picks from a few years ago, a chance to really make a name for himself at second base. Sure, if he can put it together, India, and and some of their past stars, the young stars that were supposed to break out, like Nick Senzel out in the outfield, sure, they could easily be a team in the mix, especially in a division like this, where I think it's, sure that the St. Louis Cardinals are arguably the favorite, but I don't think they're running away with it.
No.
And of course, you haven't gotten to the Cubs yet, who are a total question mark.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
And Pittsburgh, who's just probably somewhere between a AA team and a major league team at this point. So anyone could win this division, and they can do it with less wins than other divisions. So, I mean, short answer to your question, no, I don't think the Reds are that team, because I don't like the fact that they got rid of Raisel Iglesias, their closer. And then the fact that they couldn't compete on Trevor Bauer, of course.
Yeah.
And then I believe Sonny Gray is going to have some injuries to start the season here. So he's, they're kind of limited on some of the starts that he can offer. We really need to see this team kind of put everything together. And I just don't know if they quite can do it, especially in the early goings when teams like Milwaukee or St. Louis might be able to get a good jump on them.
You mentioned Milwaukee, Christian Yelich. He was the golden child. And of course, Ryan Braun. He's getting up there in years a little bit. Milwaukee. I sentimentally, first place I ever went to watch a ball game. I've always got a soft spot for Milwaukee in the National League now. There's something missing about them though, Paul, that tells me that they're not gonna make it. You mentioned it. Any one of those four teams can do it, but something's missing with Milwaukee this year, Paul. For me.
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it, Lou, but I think let's start with Christian Yelich. Ever since he fouled that ball off of his knee in September of 2019, he really hasn't been the MVP player that we saw in that season and the year before. He really needs to bounce back this year and carry this team. You mentioned Ryan Braun. He got up there in age. He's no longer even with the club at this point. They're moving in a new direction, and it's, there's talent on this team. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really jump out off the page on me. And you look at that pitching staff, it's impressive. But at the same time, I need to see Josh Hader do this for a full season.
Yes.
In the shortened season, he was great last year. But, could he do that times 3 this year? I don't know. And Devin Williams, was it a one-year fluke, or was this something that they can build off of going forward? I mean, I like the Brewers, and that's a team that, don't be surprised if they win this division just because the amount of balance that they have and how Craig Counsell is creative in his usage of some of these players on his team. But Can they outlast the Cardinals? I personally don't think so, but I think the Brewers are built to win. I think they're going to be above 500. But it's just, how can they compete with the likes of the Dodgers or the Padres or the Mets or, these juggernaut teams that can spend a lot of money on great players?
That's another excellent point. When you start getting into the smaller market teams, you're right. They just can't. And I look at the Cubs and, they had a great run. I think the window is closed as we see it right now. Their over-under is 78.5. I wouldn't bet on it because, like you said, you just don't know. But, I think they're kind of – I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Cubs right now.
Well, the way I look at them is the opening day squad looks like a team that's good enough to make the playoffs, right?
Okay.
You got Chris Bryant, you got Javier Baez, you have Anthony Rizzo. However, they were supposed to come to contract extensions with all three of those players. Now, while it was unlikely that they were going to do this with Chris Bryant, I think it's a giant red flag that they weren't able to do this with Anthony Rizzo. Yes. He seems like he's the darling of this team. And the rumor out there is that what the Cubs were offering was about $40 million less than what Rizzo was looking for.
Wow.
And while these teams don't want to the team, I don't think it cares, but the players don't really seem like they want to negotiate a contract in the middle of the season. And that's understandable. But now with these guys all approaching free agency at the end of the season, I just don't see a scenario in which the Cubs let all three walk away without getting something back for their investment. So Chris Bryant, I think, is a very likely trade candidate to possibly the Braves or the Mets or whoever's really desperate for a third baseman at the July trade deadline. So, I mean, the team that we see now on April 1st might be a completely different looking team when we look at them on September 30th. And that's where the Cubs are. I think some growing up in Chicago here, at least, or being in the Chicagoland area, a lot of people look at the Cubs through rose-colored glasses right now, especially.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is when you look at the end of the season, they might be one of those teams that just completely dismantles. We've seen that example before, right, Lou? Where it's like a team on paper looks really good, and then by August they just look like a hot mess. And that's kind of what I forecast the Cubs to be this season.
I wouldn't be surprised either. And then Pittsburgh, I got one word for. Well, I don't know. I'll go with disaster. It's wow. You hit the nail on the head. A Double-A team. They remind me of Kansas City about 10, 12 years ago or 10 years ago, and when they were at rock bottom. And I feel bad for Pirates fans. The glory days of 50, 40 years ago. Even in the early 90s, it just seems like a distant memory.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they weren't able to capitalize on those seasons when they had Andrew McCutchen and they were, doing really well about 8 years ago.
Yes.
It seemed like every time, if I'm not mistaken, they were the team that would always get to like the wild card game and just completely fall apart or, or just couldn't compete with the Cardinals or the Cubs and just would find themselves on the outside looking in. It's just unfortunate where they're at as a franchise right now. It seems like there's always going to be that one team every year that is just completely just horrible and trying to really figure themselves out and try and totally restart and build a new foundation. And I trust that Ben Cherington can do that in Pittsburgh. But right now, it's just I don't think I've seen a team this bad in quite some time. I mean, there's been some bad ones, the Phillies of the mid 2010s. You were talking about Kansas City about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The White Sox, for lack of a better example, about 3 years ago. That's where Pittsburgh's at. The difference with them against all of those teams, though, is they haven't really started to build their core yet. I mean, yes, we've seen Ke'Bryan Hayes come up and look impressive, and he's going to be a fun player to watch this year. But I still think there's going to be moves to be made this year with some of their remaining veterans that at least have some sort of value to the club. And that's what I'm looking at right now is, what moves are they going to be making? I think if you're a Pirates fan, that's the only thing you got right now is just what business decisions will this team make over the next year that gives you confidence in the future. So I don't know. That's I think a starting point for them. It's really an ugly lineup when you look at it all across, though.
It sure is. We got a couple minutes left, Paul. Man, this is great. I could talk baseball for 3 hours with you if we had the time. I'm a big over-under guy. I'm going to take two teams here by tomorrow morning and put a couple of shackles on over-under. 103 for the Dodgers. It seems a lot, and I'll tell you why. And it was a great point. One of our fellow broadcasters on our network, Aaron Crouch on the Vegas Squares, he said he would go under, and I tend to do that only because he thinks San Diego might steal some wins from them, and their interleague play is with the American League West. Would you go over or under on 103 for the Dodgers?
I would go under. I have them in my projections as under 103.
Okay.
I think you're right about San Diego. We'll steal some wins from them. 103 is a lofty number.
It sure is.
And I think the league has kind of tightened up a little bit compared to what we saw a couple of years ago. If you remember, there was I think it was 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. There was a big kind of complaint around the league with some of the fans, the players, owners, that about a third of the league was tanking at that point. And I don't think a third of this league is tanking anymore. So I think it's going to be a little bit more balanced. While I think that the National League West will produce a 100-game winner, I just don't think it's going to be the Dodgers. I have them at 95 and 67 when everything's said and done, and sitting in second place in this division behind the Padres.
Wow. What do you got for the Padres? And maybe I should go over 94 for them then.
I got 101 for them.
Woo!
And I think it's just because, not to question the desire of any sort of player out there, but it's so hard to repeat as champions. The Dodgers have been chasing this dragon for a decade now, and they finally got to get their fix when they won the World Series last year.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be kind of hard for them to replicate that, and especially when you have the Padres, who just really built themselves up into one of the most impressive turnarounds I've seen a team have in an offseason. I mean, how can you get Yu Darvish and Blake Snell without giving up too much of your farm system and have a core in place that has the likes of a guy like Fernando Tatis Jr., who's arguably the hottest player in the league right now? Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have when you have to tell a guy to stop trying so hard when you're up by so much late in the game.
Paulie, I got to leave it there. We're up against it, man. This has flown by. Thanks for taking time out tonight to come on the show. Get the hot dog get those grilled onions and mustard ready to go for tomorrow, and enjoy baseball. Thanks for coming on, Paulie.
Hey, thanks, Lou. Thanks for having me. I'll always be a guest whenever you want me.
All right, thank you. Paul Shivari, the MLB Insider here on our show here. My God, we're up against it, man. We got to get out of here. All I could say is take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the fun. Give me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, whatever. I'm excited. My Tigers are going to win 74 games. I'm going over on them. Hey, World Series, it's going to be the Yankees against the Padres. I'm going there. Goodbye, Dodgers. We don't want to see you there anymore. Hey, thanks for joining us here tonight. We want to thank Mitch Bernstein for joining us, Boz Echevarri for being on the show, of course, Paul Shivari, a regular here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and you for taking time out tonight to watch us. Hit some baseballs, hit some golf balls, whatever. It's the Captain Lou Extravaganza reminding you to keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Captain Lou Wrestling Extravaganza as we preview WrestleMania 37. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everybody.